Welcome to the Executive Read. It's a segment from India HR Dialogue where we unpack impactful business and leadership books to equip you with the insights you need for success. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future deep dives into these game-changing books. Today, we're diving into Office Kaizen 2, Harnessing Leadership. Now, you might be wondering, what is Kaizen? It's a Japanese term that essentially translates to continuous improvement. Think small, consistent changes that over time can create big results. This book takes that powerful philosophy from the factory floor and applies it to the office environment, where we often find hidden wastes and inefficiencies. So, are you ready to uncover some actionable insights for boosting productivity and effectiveness in your own workplace?
What's fascinating about this book is how it starts by addressing the very nature of change. The authors argue that the universe, and organizations too, naturally resist change when they're in a state of equilibrium.
They use a really clever analogy to illustrate this. Imagine two friends, Bill and Jim, who've been comfortably jogging the same route for years.
Right. Their bodies are perfectly adapted to that routine. But then, Bill decides to suddenly increase his mileage. What happens? His body, which was happily cruising along, is thrown into chaos. He experiences cramps, muscle fatigue. It's a whole system in revolt.
Okay, so I can see where this is going. It's like when companies try to implement sudden, drastic changes, right?
Exactly. It's like trying to force Bill to run a marathon without any preparation. The system just isn't ready for that kind of upheaval. The authors call this phenomenon persistent disequilibrium, pushing a system just slightly out of its comfort zone. To stimulate adaptation and improvement, it's about finding that sweet spot between complacency and chaos.
So instead of that Bill-style sudden jump, we need to think more like Jim, gradually increasing our workload or implementing changes in stages.
Precisely. Give the system, whether it's our bodies or our organizations, a chance to adapt and recalibrate. That's how we avoid resistance and ensure lasting, positive change.
Now, this whole idea of change becomes even more interesting when we consider the human element. This book dives into control theory, a model explaining how our innate human needs drive our actions in the workplace.
And one of the most powerful needs they highlight is the need for self-worth. We all crave the feeling of being valued and appreciated for our unique contributions. And this is where it gets really interesting. The authors point out how modern work life has made organizations a primary source for fulfilling this need.
That makes a lot of sense. With families often spread out and communities less close-knit than in the past, our workplaces have become hubs for social interaction and a sense of belonging.
Exactly. So if organizations can tap into this need for self-worth by empowering their employees, giving them a sense of ownership and control,
that's where we see a real boost in engagement, productivity, and investment in the success of the organization.
right, and to understand these individual differences in needs and motivations, the book even touches on the Myers-Briggs type indicator as a helpful tool. It emphasizes that one size doesn't fit all when it comes to leadership and motivation.
So we need to understand what makes people tick if we want to create a workplace where everyone feels valued and motivated.
Absolutely. And this leads us to another fascinating aspect of the book, how our brains process information and how that affects our response to change. It gets into the me and the I, the preconscious and conscious parts of our minds.
Okay, so the me is like that autopilot running in the background based on our past experiences and assumptions.
Exactly. It's constantly filtering information, looking for patterns, trying to make sense of the world based on what it already knows.
And I bet this is where resistance to change often comes from. Our preconscious me clinging to those old assumptions, even when presented with new information.
You got it. And to overcome this resistance, leaders need to understand how to effectively challenge those preconscious assumptions. The authors bring up the idea of cognitive dissonance, that mental discomfort we feel when we hold conflicting beliefs.
Like that feeling when you realize you were wrong about something, or your actions don't align with your values.
Precisely. And the key takeaway here is that by strategically creating cognitive dissonance, leaders can nudge employees to re-examine those preconscious assumptions and become more open to new ways of thinking.
So it's about creating those aha moments where employees realize that their old ways of doing things might not be the most efficient or effective.
Exactly. And this sets the stage for the practical tools and techniques of Office Kaizen that we'll explore in a bit. But before we move on, if you're really intrigued by these concepts and want to dive deeper, we encourage you to grab a copy of Office Kaizen 2 for yourself. We've included a link in the episode description for your convenience. Now, let's get into the practical side of things. Imagine you're looking at a stack of paperwork. moving through different stages of a process. In a traditional push system, each person completes their task and pushes the work onto the next person, whether they're ready or not.
It's like a conveyor belt, where the focus is on individual output rather than the overall flow.
Exactly. And what happens? You get piles of work in progress, bottlenecks, delays, a recipe for inefficiency.
Yeah. How do we fix that?
Office Kaizen advocates for a pull system. Each person only takes on new work when they have the capacity. It's more like a relay race, where the baton is passed only when the next runner is ready.
I like that analogy. It creates a much smoother flow.
Right. This minimizes those wasteful piles and ensures work moves through the system efficiently. And one key way to achieve this is by reducing batch sizes. Instead of processing large chunks of work at once,
We break them down
Yeah,
into smaller, more manageable units.
exactly. Smaller batches mean greater flexibility, faster turnaround times, and fewer errors.
The book also talks about something called standard work. Sounds a bit counterintuitive at first, like we're stifling creativity.
I know, right? But think of it this way. Standard work is about establishing a baseline for excellence. It's like having a clear recipe for success.
So instead of everyone doing things their own way, we have a documented, most efficient way to complete a task. This reduces errors, inconsistencies, and guesswork.
Precisely. Without standard work, we're constantly reacting to variations, making it hard to measure progress. Standard work provides that much-needed stability and becomes the foundation for continuous improvement.
Now, a core principle of Office Kaizen is eliminating waste. The book actually adapts those 7 deadly wastes originally identified in manufacturing.
To the office environment, we're talking about waiting, overprocessing, unnecessary motion, defects, things we often become blind to because they're so ingrained in our routines.
But once we learn to spot these
It's
wastes,
like a whole new world opens up.
opportunities for improvement are everywhere.
The book also dives into the importance of visual management. This means making information readily accessible and transparent, kind of like those factory floor whiteboards with charts, graphs, and metrics.
You got it. We can apply the same principles in the office, creating visual displays of key performance indicators, project timelines, and workflows. It brings information to the forefront
Yeah.
and makes it easier to understand and act upon.
So instead of hiding data away in spreadsheets and reports,
Where they lose their power.
we make them visible and actionable.
This leads us to the concept of action leadership. Remember how we talked about the need for self-worth? Well, action leadership plays a huge role in fulfilling that need.
It's about going beyond words and demonstrating commitment to continuous improvement. Through concrete actions, the book categorizes these actions into 3 types: direct, indirect, and spontaneous. Direct actions involve one-on-one interactions, where leaders provide guidance, feedback, or support. Indirect actions are those observable behaviors that set an example and communicate values. And spontaneous actions are those unplanned moments where leader sees the opportunity to reinforce positive behaviors.
The key is to be consistent. It's not about sporadic bursts of enthusiasm, but about embedding these positive actions into your daily routine.
Right, so employees come to expect these behaviors, and their pre-conscious assumptions about work and leadership begin to shift.
It creates a culture where continuous improvement becomes the norm.
Now, let's get into the nuts and bolts of implementing Office Kaizen. Across an entire organization, one crucial element is forming an executive steering committee, or ESC.
This group of top-level executives champions the initiative and provides the necessary resources and support.
They're the driving force, ensuring the initiative aligns with the strategic goals of the organization.
Then we have the workstream teams, or WSTs. These are cross-functional teams focused on specific improvement opportunities. They analyze processes, identify wastes, develop solutions, and implement changes.
Each WST has a designated champion from the ESC who provides guidance and support. And these teams are empowered to make decisions and take action. They are the engine of the Office Kaizen process.
And to accelerate those improvements, the book suggests holding Kaizen events. These are focused bursts of activity, typically a week long, where teams tackle specific improvement opportunities.
The book provides a detailed roadmap for planning and executing these events. From setting clear objectives to documenting results, it's all about creating a sense of urgency and driving rapid change.
Kaizen events are also great for team building, bringing people together from different departments to collaborate and learn from each other.
And the key to success, making sure the improvements are sustained.
Right, we don't want to lose those hard-won gains. The book outlines several follow-up mechanisms, like visual management boards, regular progress reviews, and accountability systems. to make sure the new ways of working become ingrained in the culture.
And remember, Office Kaizen is adaptable. It can be used in any type of organization, any industry, any department.
The book gives examples from healthcare, finance, education, you name it. The principles are universal: eliminating waste, improving efficiency, empowering employees.
But it's not just about processes and tools, it's about creating a culture of continuous improvement. And that requires a shift in mindset.
One where employees feel a sense of ownership and are empowered to identify problems, develop solutions, and implement changes.
Exactly, because when people feel like they have a stake in the outcome, they're more likely to embrace the Kaizen philosophy and contribute their best ideas.
And that's where the magic happens. When continuous improvement becomes a collective effort.
It's about harnessing the collective wisdom of the organization. And of course, we need to recognize and celebrate successes. Even small wins. This creates a positive feedback loop, reinforcing those positive behaviors and keeping the momentum going.
And celebrating doesn't have to be elaborate or expensive. A simple thank you, a public acknowledgement, or even a small token of appreciation can go a long way in making people feel valued.
Yeah. Implementing Office Kaizen isn't always a walk in the park.
We might encounter resistance to change from those who cling to the old ways of doing things.
Absolutely. And the book offers some insightful advice for dealing with those skeptics. First, it's crucial to understand the root cause of their resistance: fear of the unknown, feeling threatened. Once we understand their concerns, we can address them directly.
The book suggests involving those individuals in the improvement process, giving them a voice and a sense of ownership.
Often, the best way to overcome resistance is to turn skeptics into advocates.
And that's where leadership plays a vital role, creating a compelling vision for the future, communicating the benefits of Office Kaizen, and inspiring people to embrace the journey.
So, what do you think? What are some key insights that have resonated with you so far?
For me, it's the emphasis on action leadership. It's a powerful reminder that leadership isn't just about words, it's about actions, setting an example, and inspiring others to embrace continuous improvement.
What's fascinating to me is how Office Kaizen blends these practical improvement methodologies with a deep understanding of human behavior. It's not just about optimizing processes, it's about creating an environment where people can thrive. The emphasis on action leadership, empowerment, and the recognition of self-worth. Those are the elements that truly transform organizations.
And it's not about achieving perfection.
And
It's about embracing the continuous journey of improvement, always striving to be better, more efficient, more effective.
Now, before we wrap up, let's address some potential pitfalls to avoid. When implementing Office Kaizen, it's not always smooth sailing, and being aware of these challenges can help you navigate the process more effectively.
One common mistake is trying to do too much too soon. It's tempting to jump in and tackle every problem at once, but the book cautions against this.
Right, it's much better to start small, focus on one area or process, get some quick wins under your belt, build momentum, and then gradually expand your efforts.
Another pitfall is lack of leadership commitment. Office Kaizen can't be delegated. It requires active involvement from top-level executives.
They need to champion the initiative, provide resources, and most importantly, model the desired behaviors. Remember, it's not a one-time effort, it's an ongoing journey that requires sustained leadership commitment.
We also talked about resistance to change earlier, but it's worth reiterating because it's a significant hurdle for many organizations. The book provides strategies for overcoming resistance, involving skeptics, communicating benefits, celebrating successes, but it's crucial to be patient. Change takes time.
Absolutely, and sometimes it feels like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But the key is to persevere and stay focused on the long-term vision.
Another challenge is sustaining those hard-won gains. It's relatively easy to make improvements, but much harder to make them stick.
The book recommends those mechanisms we discussed: visual management boards, progress reviews, accountability systems, to embed the new ways of working into the culture and make them part of the organization's DNA.
Now, let's shift gears and talk about how to measure the success of your Office Kaizen efforts. It's not enough to just implement the tools and techniques. We need to track progress and demonstrate the value of this philosophy.
The book recommends a balanced approach to measurement, looking at both tangible and intangible metrics.
So tangible metrics might include things like productivity improvements, cost reductions, or shorter cycle times.
And intangible metrics might include employee engagement, customer satisfaction, or even a boost in innovation. It's about capturing the full impact of Office Kaizen, both the quantifiable and the qualitative.
The book also stresses the importance of aligning your Office Kaizen efforts with the overall strategic goals of the organization. It's not just about improving efficiency for its own sake. It should be a strategic enabler, helping your organization achieve its mission and vision.
Right. So before embarking on your Office Kaizen journey, take the time to define how this philosophy will contribute to your strategic objectives, and then track your progress against those goals.
One of the most inspiring aspects of Office Kaizen is its human-centric approach.
It's not just about optimizing processes. It's about empowering people, creating a culture of continuous learning, and fostering a sense of purpose. That's what makes Office Kaizen so powerful. It's a philosophy that can transform not just organizations, but also individuals.
It's about unlocking the full potential of your workforce and creating a workplace where everyone can thrive.
Before we move on to our final thoughts and action points for you, I'm curious, what are some key takeaways you'll be applying to your own work?
For me, it's the focus on eliminating waste. I'm going to be much more aware of those 7 deadly wastes lurking in my daily work and challenge myself to find creative ways to eliminate them.
And for me, it's that powerful reminder. The Office Kaizen is about empowering people, giving them the autonomy to identify problems, develop solutions, and implement changes is key to creating a truly engaged and productive workforce.
Great point. Now I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive with some practical advice for our listeners on getting started with Office Kaizen.
Absolutely. First, remember to start small. Don't try to boil the ocean. Choose one area or process to focus on. Get some quick wins, build momentum, and then gradually expand your efforts.
Second, involve your team. Office Kaizen is a collaborative effort. Engage your employees, get their input, and empower them to be part of the solution.
Third, be patient. Change takes time. Don't expect to see results overnight. Stay committed to the journey. Celebrate those small wins, and you'll eventually achieve those breakthrough improvements.
And finally, remember that Office Kaizen isn't just about tools and techniques. It's about creating a culture of continuous improvement.
A culture where everyone is empowered to identify problems, develop solutions, and strive for excellence.
And if you're looking for more in-depth guidance on implementing Office Kaizen in your organization, we highly recommend checking out Office Kaizen 2, Harnessing Leadership. We've included a link in the episode description where you can purchase the book.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving for excellence.